So glad to be here. Um, okay, hi everyone. My name is Debbie Bonilla, and I am a proud Puerto Rican woman, mom of 3 Black and Puerto Rican children. My youngest is in the 8th grade at CSUS, and pre-COVID went to the Frozzoli Youth Center here in Cambridge. I have a degree in lived experience. Everything I've experienced in life has brought me to where I am today and why I do the work that I do. I am the family that I serve. I'm going to say that again. I am the family that I serve. I work for the Cambridge Public Schools as a family engagement specialist in the newly developed Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. It is literally my job to make sure that Black and brown youth feel known and valued in our community. In all of my work, I center Black and brown families and youth who face racism on a daily basis. I want to be clear, when I'm talking about an experience, it doesn't mean that it's every Black and brown person's situation. My intention is not to paint Black and brown families as all that they are the same in a deficit lens. I don't ever want to do that. Our families are strong and thriving, and racism still exists, and barriers are still put up every day for our Black and brown people. Institutional racism exists right here in Cambridge. Barriers include access, who gets in. You just heard all that data, it's powerful. Who is most likely to have the financial means to send their kids to after school or tutoring program? Who has the highest test scores? What schools do youth get into? And I can go on and on. There are so many layers to racism and equity, visible and invisible. Today, my focus is going to be on the Black and brown youth and families and reducing harm for them. Now, I'd like to do just a really quick, I'd like for you to do a quick activity with me. You can choose to close your eyes or not, but I want you to think about when you were a student. It doesn't matter the grade. You may have participated in an after school program, so if you want to think about that, that's your preference, whatever you want to do. But did you ever feel isolated, not seen, sad, angry, bullied, hurt, frustrated, not smart enough? At that moment, what did you need and what would have been helpful? Or maybe you were a student that things went well for you. You were popular, you played sports, you were in theater, you got good grades. Who was your cheerleader? And if you have your eyes closed, you can open your eyes. And I want you to hold those thoughts just for a few minutes. I'm just gonna say, things that just come out of me. I wrote things down. Hopefully it's a good flow, but I'm just gonna do what Debbie always does and just blah. So, okay, our families are carrying a lot. Their luggage that is not visible to you is heavy. It's their emotional luggage. It is their past trauma, their heartaches and struggles. And unfortunately, most of them have been collecting stuff for generations. The pandemic has added more heartache. Whether people lost their jobs or had no choice but to work while fearing they would get COVID and bring it home to their family. This is important to know and think about every time you engage with a caregiver and caregiver parent. The same goes for the youth. Just because they are young and resilient doesn't mean they ain't carrying anything. Sometimes they're carrying the weight, the baggage of their providers, their caregivers and parents. We as educators and youth workers have to be aware of the way we handle situations and the things we say. Our actions and words impact, and just like that, we can shut a kid down. That moment can decide what their life experience will be. Same goes for the parents and the parents' caregivers, whatever it is you choose to call them. You can lose engagement and trust with your words and your actions, just like that. It could be a look, it could be a sigh, it could be the roll of the eyes, it could be a turn away. Any of that, and you could lose a parent. Don't make assumptions about someone's appearance or the way they speak. Don't assume a caregiver or parent doesn't care because they don't show up to activities. Think about that invisible luggage, connect with them, and begin to build a relationship and trust. Understand we all have stuff, and you have to remember that when you're working with students, remember that when you're working with students and families. When the students leave you, what are they going home to? We hope a nurturing environment, love, a hot meal, their lights are on, a caregiver or a parent to talk to, ask them how school was. But that's not always the case. That's not always true. And it's not the fault of the child, and it's not always the fault of the parent or caregiver. Believe that caregivers and parents love their children and want the best for them. When you're planning a program for students, why not involve them to be part of that process? When planning events for caregivers and parents, why not involve them to be part of that process, right? And I'm pretty sure you all do that. I know we'll do that at the school, but understand, an invite, that's not enough. It's great, but not enough, right? I'm sure you all heard, we need to bring them to the table. We're not hearing their voices. We know who them, they, their, who they mean when they talk about that. Listen, I can come to a table, I can bring my chair, I can stand at the table, but if you're not hearing me, if you're not listening to me, if you are not making the space for me to talk, to take action on the things that I am expressing, what's the point? What is the point? Are you gonna like say things like, yeah, but, or, you know, not every Black and brown? No. Centering voices of the families and students that are most affected by racism means that you're gonna give them the space to speak. You will hear and listen to them, and you will take action. They know what they want and need. I think about the Black and brown families that have left the school district because we caused harm, right? And we can't be okay with that. We can't be okay that they left. We're responsible for that. And we have to take responsibility for it. And we've lost children and young adults to gun violence, drugs, dying by suicide. We have to take some responsibility for that. At least in my eyes, this is how I feel. Somewhere our kids, whether or not we want to admit it, we failed them. We didn't stay connected to them. We gave up on them. The school to prison pipeline is real, and it happens right here in Cambridge. We cannot give up on our kids. We don't know what they're going through, so they may act out. Again, be curious. Ask what's going on. Ask them, what do they need? For you to just listen, give advice, honor whatever that need is. Because sometimes as an adult, I know as a mother, right? I want to say, well, this is what you need to do. It's really hard not to state what I want, but you just sometimes just have to sit there and listen. We can't say that we want to be an anti-racist district or city and do things that are not going to help, right? We must all have our equity lens on. And for some of us, that lens is a bifocal lens. This work is deep and there are so many layers to it. And I want to acknowledge that we people of color can cause harm too. And I hate saying that. I hate it. I've held that for so long, but it's true. And if we don't acknowledge it and do better, then how do we move forward? Family engagement and race and equity are intertwined, right? It lives in everything we do. Family engagement, you cannot separate the two. I don't care what you say, you cannot separate the two. Family engagement isn't just about caregiver parents coming to a meeting. Family engagement happens outside of school. A caregiver parent walking their child to school, to the bus stop, eating a meal together, asking how was your day, that's engagement. So just because we don't see it in a building, we can't assume it's not happening and label that parent is not caring. We all have heard the reason of why a caregiver or parent may not go into a building. They work, they have younger children, they need childcare, they're trying to figure out how they're gonna pay rent, their gas, their electric bill, food, there's mental health, and I can go on and on. They might be too ashamed to ask for help or afraid if they do, the system might call child services on them. We might judge them. And we know there are parents that don't respect the system of building because along the way, the system building failed them as a student or maybe one of their older kids. I can tell you that my oldest did not go to Cambridge Vigilant, and that was really hard for me. But because of my own experience at that high school, I didn't send her. It could be because when I walked into that building, no adult connected with me. In those 4 years I was there, no connection. I had no one. I cannot tell you the name of a teacher or guidance counselor or my guidance counselor. I had because of that experience, I had no interest in going to college right after school, right after high school. None. I hated school. and college didn't happen to me until my mid 20s. And so I ended up missing out on a lot of, you know, opportunities that young people have when they leave high school and then to go right into college. Now, I'm sure you've heard people say, you wonder why the child is like that, or why are they so disrespectful? Why do they talk like that? And then they say, well, just look at their parent. Just look. You always have parents that feel like, you also have parents, right, that feel like this is your job. You teach and keep my child safe. And if you have a good relationship with my child, then you're going to have a good one with me. If my kids are coming home saying school and after school were good, fun, and so and so helped me, how do you think I'm going to feel? I feel great. If I'm going to love you. I'm going to love the program. Now, if my child comes home and says this staff member was rude or says something horrible, that's when I'm going to show up. Now, I'm not the kind of parent personally that, believes everything my kid says. I do look at my kid and say, okay, what part did you play here? But not all parents do that. That child's going to go home complaining, and it's going to be a trigger for a caregiver parent. And those are the parents that get labeled and are talked about, the problem caregiver parent, because they're perceived as troublemakers, uninterested and involved, just because they're going to show up because someone has harmed their kids. We have to change our lens. The activity we did in the beginning, I want you to remember your thoughts so that you can give your students what they need and be their cheerleader, because no child should have to feel like no one cares. And again, we know that kids that are most impacted are our Black and brown kids. And just a few other things I'm going to mention: equality versus equity. Not everyone needs the same thing to thrive. Don't be Oprah and give everybody, in the audience a car, right? If I can't pay the taxes and insurance, that car is not coming home with me. That car is no good to me. So be aware also of opportunity hoarding. Don't give all your attention to the families whose children are succeeding in driving and ignore the ones that are not, right? Because those ones that are demanding your attention, those are the easy parents to talk to. We have to be creative, and we have to be bold, and we have to take risks. We have to think outside the box because our kids deserve it and their families do too. And when I say creative, bold, take risks, and that's in everything that we do, that is in our job. I took this job knowing that I'm here to serve families. I am not here. I know I work for the district, but my priority is our families and our students, especially our students of color. And if that means that I voice something and I might be taking a risk, oh well, I know that I'm doing something good. This work is exhausting. You're going to get tired. Rest, practice self-care, and get back up and get to work. As a city, we must do better. As I said, I know I was all over the place and I just wanted to empty things out, and I could go on and on and on, but I don't have that time. But I want you to know that our family liaisons, they're working hard and they're always ready to connect with you. And before I do close, I do want to say thank you to all of you. You play an important role with our kids, and I appreciate you. Like I said, my son goes there. My middle daughter went to the youth centers, and I know the work that you all do. So thank you for that. And I'm just going to finish by saying this quote by Max Dupree, which I think is amazing. We cannot become what we want by remaining what we are. Thank you.